What's going on, y'all? So, let me tell you, I want to teach you guys some basic Filipino martial arts. I think it will enhance your Jalga weapons handling or weapons use. Um, some of you guys probably heard my opinion before. It's not very popular with Chinese martial artists, but I believe most Chinese martial artists do not know how to use a weapon. They know how to swing the weapon, they know how to do forms with the weapon, but they don't know how to use the weapon. And my criteria for determining if you know a weapon or not is if you can fight with it. And if you're an instructor, you should be able to fight dominantly with it. Meaning, if I got this weapon in my hand, nobody, uh, unless they have a gun, they're not going to be able to give me a hard time, right? Most martial artists, at least Chinese martial artists, don't have that level of ability with the weapon. So, um, some of it, I got from Jalga because in Jalga we were experimenters. We worked with these, the techniques in general, but the weapon was one of the things that we practiced that other Kung Fu styles didn't. But I used my Filipino martial arts background to explore it even further. And so I participated in weapons fighting tournaments and weapons fighting events. I still do now. So um, I think it'll really enhance your kung fu knowledge if you were to get this Filipino martial arts. So let's get right to it, okay? So we start with a stick, a basic stick. Um, the length is up to you. Most people have most people use from the wrist to the shoulder. Um, this stick right here is basically fingertip to the shoulder. Some people go from the fingertip all the way to the center of the body, and some only, yeah, I already said from the wrist to the shoulder. So the length is not that important. It's uh, knowing how to use that, understanding the length of the weapon and its advantages and disadvantages is more important. Okay. Some styles advocate holding the stick all the way at the bottom because it gives you full extension of the weapon. That's valid. For me, in my style, I have one hand grip distance from the bottom because in our system we use the back of the stick to hit, and we use the hook and trap. So want y'all to have a little bit of room at the bottom. Okay. Uh, so there are 28 basic hits in my system. I'm only going to teach you the first 5. No, I'll teach you the first 6. Okay. Strike number 1 from the shoulder to the temple. That's a out to in, shoulder to the temple. When you hit, you want to strike more in a straight line. So don't go at an angle, right? A lot of people go at an angle. What happens is when the stick hits the target, it'll slide if you're going at an angle. If it goes at a very straight angle, it only has one point of contact. So all the power is concentrated in one little spot. In Arnis, we do breaking demonstrations with the sticks. We break coconut, we break bricks, wood, things like that with a basic rattan stick. That is the key to breaking with the stick. And what it represents is breaking bone. You break the coconut, it's like fracturing the skull, right? Break a brick, it's like breaking a bone. So the key is the straighter the angle to the target, the more concentrated the power. So keep that in mind. So this is number 1, to the temple or cheekbone or teeth. Number 2 is a reverse strike to the head or strike the temple. Number 3, the knee or the shin. Number 4, the knee or the shin. 5, could be, well, they say the top of the head, but I don't believe in hitting the top of the head. It doesn't do anything. We go for the face, the collarbone, or the wrist or hand. So that's a number 5 going down. Notice I'm not doing this because I can get stopped this way. I keep the stick compact, and then I strike that way. So if they put their hand out there, they're dealing with stick, not my hand. Okay. And then 6 is a thrust. Thrust can be to the groin or the throat of the chin. Notice I didn't go to the stomach, which is what most people teach, because a stick going to the stomach really doesn't do anything. Unless I'm just trying to maybe beat them up a little bit, But if I want to cause injury, it's best to go to the throat or the groin or the face with the thrust. We have a box, and this is proprietary. So this is from my system that makes us unique. The box starts at about the eyes, goes across to about the shoulders, all the way down to the groin or the dantian. Okay, this box is where my hand goes. My hand doesn't come outside that box. Even when I wind up to hit the head, I'm not doing this to hit the head. Remember what I said? It can be stopped like this. I draw back, and then I hit that way. So the opponent is dealing with the stick, right? Now, if you need more wind up, you turn your body that way, right? Or there's another option. I put my hand out, and then if I check the opponent, I can bring the hand back for more swing. But as a rule of thumb, we try to keep the hand inside this box. And the box goes from shoulder to shoulder, from eye to dantian. And the hand should stay inside. You can go a little bit outside, a little bit inside, but you don't want to go way outside that way. You don't want to come way down here like that. There are a few exceptions, but we'll get into that later. Okay, how much time we got? Oh, yeah, plenty of time. Okay, so that's the basic strikes. And when you practice them by the 50s or practice them by the 100s. Develop each strike individually. There's a tendency in Filipino martial arts and Chinese Kung Fu of practicing the whole, right? We practice forms, we do the whole form all together. We have a saying, you master the parts, or perfect the parts to master the whole. You'll get more out of practicing the strikes one at a time and developing them as separate weapons than you will just doing all 6 all at one time. Now, when I do it, sorry, I'm trying to. This thing is being covered by a paño, by a handkerchief to keep the sun off my phone. Okay, so when you do practice, it's best to treat each numbered strike as a separate weapon, and you develop it separately. So do the number 1 100 times. Do the number 2 100 times. Number 3 100 times. And what you'll notice is that you develop these weapons as a separate technique, like a wheel punch or a side punch or a roundhouse kick or side kick. So they don't just become numbers on a chart. Like in a Filipino martial arts, they usually make charts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one is a separate weapon, and you may specialize in one and not the other. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that being said, oh yeah, even these backhand strikes, right? The backhand strike should be developed separately to have power, right? The goal is to get it to the point I can break a coconut with it. Those techniques are often ignored because they're difficult to develop, and we want to develop it to the point that each one of these strikes has almost lethal potential. So I'm going to make another video to address the double stick.